She had barely finished celebrating her breakthrough title in Washington, and already Alex was back on court with another major test waiting for her. Just days earlier, she had conquered a field filled with elite competition at the DC Open, beating top players and claiming the first WTA title of her career. Now, under the bright lights of Toronto, there was no time to enjoy the achievement. The Canadian Open was moving fast, and Alex was being asked to prove that Washington was not a one-week miracle. Her first challenge was a familiar one, and that made the moment even more personal. Standing across the net was Alicia Parks, the American who had already handed Alex one of the toughest defeats of her season. Their previous meeting at the Australian Open had ended painfully for Alex. She had taken the opening set without dropping a game, only for Parks to completely turn the match around and storm back to win in 3 sets. That loss had stayed in the background for months. And now, 7 months later, the two were meeting again. But this time, Alex was not the same player who had walked onto the court in Melbourne. She arrived in Toronto as a WTA champion, carrying a 6-match winning streak and the confidence that comes from finally breaking through at the highest level. More importantly, she had just completed a remarkable run in Washington where she defeated players with far more experience and established herself as a serious threat on the WTA Tour. So when the match began, there was a completely different feeling around Alex. She wasn't chasing the moment anymore. She looked ready to control it. From the opening points, Alex refused to get dragged into a pure power battle with the tall American. Parks had the bigger serve and the ability to end points quickly, but Alex understood that she didn't need to beat her opponent at her own game. Instead, she made Parks work. She extended rallies, moved the American around the court, and waited for the mistakes to appear. And they came. Parks managed to fire several big serves early, but Alex kept finding ways to neutralize that advantage. 2 breaks of serve gave her control, while a steady stream of errors from Parks made the difference even clearer. In barely half an hour, Alex had taken the first set 6-1. It looked like the rematch might be heading toward a quick conclusion. But anyone who remembered what happened in Melbourne knew better than to count Parks out. The American had already shown that she could come back from a terrible position against Alex, and once again, she found another gear. The second set became a completely different battle. Parks started attacking more aggressively, finding her first serve and taking control of shorter points. Her big weapons finally began to cause problems, and Alex suddenly found herself under pressure. The match tightened. Neither player wanted to give anything away. Then, at 4-4, Parks finally created the opening she had been searching for. She broke Alex's serve and suddenly had the chance to force a deciding set. She took it. Just like that, the match was level, and the memories of Melbourne began creeping back into the atmosphere. One set would decide everything. This was the moment where Alex could have allowed the past to take over. Instead, she did the opposite. She came out in the deciding set with urgency and immediately attacked Parks' serve. The break arrived in the opening game, sending a clear message that Alex was not interested in repeating what happened months earlier. Parks fought back and brought the score level at 2-2, but Alex responded again. Another break put her ahead 3-2, and from there, the momentum never truly left her hands. She had survived the difficult second set, absorbed the pressure, and now she was playing with the confidence of a player who knew exactly what she wanted. Alex closed out the final 3 games and finished the match in 1 hour and 51 minutes, winning 6-1, 4-6, 6-2. The revenge was complete. But the numbers only tell part of the story. Inside the stadium, the atmosphere was electric. Thousands of Filipino supporters had turned up with Philippine flags, creating an incredible home court feeling for Alex despite being thousands of miles from the Philippines. When the final point was over, the celebration was immediate. Alex had now won 6 matches in a row, stretching the winning streak that began during her championship run in Washington. And after the match, she made it clear that this victory meant something different. She knew Parks had pushed her, especially in the second set, and instead of pretending the performance was perfect, Alex focused on what she could learn from it. She talked about taking the match 1 point at a time, recognizing the opportunities when they appeared and making adjustments when things stopped going her way. That mindset may have been the biggest sign of all that Alex was evolving. She was no longer simply relying on talent. She was learning how to survive difficult moments, recover from setbacks, and finish matches when the pressure was at its highest. But there was no time to relax because the next opponent waiting for her had just delivered one of the biggest shocks of the tournament. And this time, the danger was coming from a completely different direction. Caty McNally, the American ranked around the world top 70, had just stunned reigning Wimbledon champion Linda Noskova. On paper, Noskova had every reason to be favored. She had recently captured her first Grand Slam title at Wimbledon and arrived in Toronto with the confidence of a newly crowned champion. McNally, meanwhile, was supposed to be the underdog. Instead, she walked onto the court and produced the kind of performance that can completely change a tournament. She refused to be intimidated, fought through the pressure, and eventually knocked out the Wimbledon champion in a dramatic 3-set battle. Suddenly, McNally was no longer just another name in the draw. She had become one of the most dangerous players left in Alex's path. And that changed everything. Alex had just taken down the player who had once beaten her in Melbourne. Now, she was facing an American who had just taken down a Wimbledon champion. The stakes were rising with every round, and Alex was getting closer to the deeper stages of one of the biggest tournaments of the year. The WTA 1000 event in Toronto carries enormous prestige, and with millions of dollars and crucial ranking points on the line, every match becomes more important than the one before it. But there was something else hanging over this run. Alex had already shown that she could win a title. She had already proven she could defeat experienced stars. Now came the question that everyone wanted answered. Could she do it again against the best players in the world, on a bigger stage, with the pressure growing heavier? Washington proved that Alex could handle a championship run. Her victory over Parks proved that she could overcome a painful memory. But McNally represented something new. There was no history between them to lean on, no previous defeat to avenge, and no familiar pattern to follow. Alex would have to solve the American from scratch. And after what McNally had just done to the Wimbledon champion, there was absolutely no reason to underestimate her. The momentum was building, the crowd was getting louder, and Alex's incredible winning streak was still alive. One thing was certain, the fairy tale was no longer just about winning her first title. It was becoming a test of how far Alex could actually go when the entire tennis world started paying attention. At one point, it looked like Linda Noskova was going to cruise through the match. The reigning Wimbledon champion came out firing and raced to a 5-1 lead in the opening set. She even had 2 chances to close it out. Everything appeared to be going exactly according to plan. But Caty McNally simply refused to let the match end there. Instead of panicking, the American started chipping away at the lead. She broke Noskova twice, pulled the score back to 5-5, and suddenly the entire match had changed. The momentum had completely shifted. Then came the tiebreak, and McNally played the biggest points better. She won 4 of Noskova's 6 service points and stole the opening set from a position that had looked almost impossible just minutes earlier. The Wimbledon champion had been in control. Suddenly, she was chasing the match. And what happened next was even more surprising. The second set turned into a nightmare for Noskova. Her normally reliable game disappeared, and McNally took advantage of every opening. Noskova managed to win only 1 game. Her first serve percentage dropped to just 32%, and she lost 33 of the 51 points played in the set. McNally didn't hesitate. She kept pressing, kept moving forward, and closed out a stunning 6-1 second set to complete one of the biggest wins of her season. The entire match was over in a little more than an hour and a half, and suddenly the American had gone from underdog to one of the players nobody wanted to face in the next round. Afterward, McNally admitted that playing a Wimbledon champion was never going to be easy. She knew Noskova was capable of turning things around at any moment, so she focused on controlling her own side of the court and staying committed to the game that had brought her the comeback. That victory was more than just another win. It was McNally's second career victory against a top 10 opponent and her 22nd WTA level win of a season, already the best single season total of her career. And this wasn't even her first battle in Toronto. In the opening round, she had already defeated Tatiana Maria in 3 sets, proving that she wasn't arriving at this stage by accident. Now, she was heading toward an entirely different atmosphere. McNally knew what was waiting for her. She expected the crowd to be heavily behind Alex, and she wasn't pretending otherwise. The Filipino supporters had already made their presence impossible to ignore, and the American understood that center court could feel more like Alex's home court than a neutral venue. But McNally welcomed the challenge. She said that regardless of who the crowd supported, it would be an experience she could enjoy. And now, that experience was about to become very real. Because standing across the net would be Alex, and the two had never faced each other on the professional tour. There would be no previous match to study from personal experience. No familiar pattern. No history between them. Just 2 completely different styles colliding for the first time. McNally had built her career around variety. She could move forward, change the rhythm, use the net, and make opponents uncomfortable with a crafty all-court game. Alex, meanwhile, had developed a reputation for something very different. As a left-handed baseliner, she could patiently build points, absorb pressure, and wait for the right moment to strike. One player wanted to disrupt the rhythm. The other wanted to establish it, and that made this matchup especially intriguing. McNally had reached a career-high ranking of number 50 and already owned 2 WTA 125 titles. She had reached the second round of the Australian Open twice, made the second round at Roland Garros earlier this season, and also reached the second round at Wimbledon. Her deepest Grand Slam run came at the 2020 US Open, where she made it to the third round. She also had serious doubles experience, including deep runs at the US Open and a partnership with Coco Gauff in Toronto. So Alex wasn't facing an inexperienced player who had suddenly gotten lucky. She was facing someone who had spent years building the tools needed for moments exactly like this. But if anyone had reason to believe she could handle the challenge, it was Alex. Look at what she had already done in the previous week. She had defeated an Olympic champion. She had taken down a defending WTA 500 champion. She had beaten a 4-time Grand Slam winner. She had even defeated the world number 3 during her incredible run in Washington. Then, just days after winning her first WTA title, she arrived in Toronto and defeated the same player who had knocked her out at the Australian Open. That wasn't just a win. It was a statement. Alex had shown that she could deal with disappointment, carry momentum across tournaments, and make adjustments when matches became complicated. Now, she had another opportunity to prove it. The difference this time was that McNally had nothing to lose. She had already knocked out the Wimbledon champion. She had already beaten a top 10 opponent. She was playing with confidence, and she knew she had the ability to make another huge statement. For Alex, that meant the danger was obvious. The American wasn't going to be intimidated by the name on the other side of the net. She had just shown that against Noskova, and with the Filipino crowd expected to fill center court, the pressure could become even greater. Alex had already experienced what it felt like to have thousands of supporters behind her in Toronto. Tickets for her second-round match reportedly disappeared within minutes, forcing organizers to move the match from the smaller 2,800-seat grandstand to the much larger center court, which holds more than 10,000 spectators. And now, with an even bigger matchup ahead, the expectation was that even more Filipino fans would turn up. The atmosphere was going to be intense. But Alex's mindset remained simple. Take it point by point. Learn from the moments that don't go perfectly. Stay patient. And when an opportunity appears, take it. That's exactly what she had done against Parks. She had lost the second set, watched the momentum swing away, and still found a way to finish the job in the third. Now, she needed to do it again against an opponent with a completely different style. Saturday, August 8th, would bring the first professional meeting between Alex and Caty McNally, and there was a lot more at stake than simply reaching the next round. Alex was carrying a winning streak. McNally was carrying the confidence of a massive upset. One had just won her first WTA title. The other had just knocked out a Wimbledon champion. And somewhere inside that packed Toronto stadium, thousands of Filipino fans were preparing to make their voices heard again. Alex had already conquered Washington. She had already completed her revenge in Toronto. But if she wanted to keep this incredible run alive, she would have to find a way through the woman who had just shocked the tennis world. And this time, there was no history to guide her. No rematch story. No unfinished business. Just a brand new battle, a packed stadium, and a dangerous opponent who had already proven that she could turn a match upside down. The question now wasn't whether Alex could handle the pressure. It was whether she could keep winning when every opponent started believing she could be beaten. Imagine walking onto a tennis court and realizing that almost the entire stadium is against you. Thousands of people are waving flags, chanting for your opponent, and waiting for you to make a mistake. For Caty McNally, that was exactly what was waiting on the other side of the net. But instead of running from the pressure, she was ready to embrace it. McNally knew the Filipino supporters would fill the stadium for Alex, and she expected nearly every voice in the building to be cheering against her. She would have only her small team in her corner. But rather than complain about the atmosphere, she saw it as part of the experience. And honestly, that attitude tells you everything about the kind of opponent Alex is about to face. Because this isn't simply another match on the schedule anymore. The pressure is growing. The expectations are growing. And Alex is carrying the hopes of an entire community with her. Her victory over Alicia Parks had already completed story that began months earlier in Melbourne. She had taken the player who once ended her Australian Open run and beaten her in a dramatic 3-set battle. The revenge was done. The winning streak was still alive. But Toronto offers Alex something much bigger than another victory. The National Bank Open is a WTA 1000